Good morning, everybody, and welcome to We Eat Stories for Breakfast. I hope none of you had to hit the snooze button this morning. I hope that you had a restful evening of sleep. And if you had dreams, I hope they were sweet. I'm Adam
And
Jeffrey Rossi.
I'm Chandler. I personally hope your dreams were about me, but in a nice, kind way, not a creepy way. Or, in fact, even better, I hope they were about breakfast, because on this podcast we do love breakfast.
They could be about
And
you and breakfast, and
it could
that's
be
truly.
a creepy dream of me eating your breakfast, so you wake up for breakfast you were excited for, but really I'm just there eating it. And in that dream, I would hope that the breakfast is good because I do love a good breakfast.
That's a triple threat right there.
Triple threat: breakfast, me, and sleep.
Well, I was going to say a spooky dream
Oh,
about Chandler eating your breakfast, but it's fine. So, our last episode, our last guest, Kylie, was a wonderful guest, wonderful episode. We had a breakfast to try, so Chandler, remind them what that breakfast was.
yeah, so Kylie had I don't want to say unique, but she had a very specific, what I would consider a classic breakfast, but with a twist.
Yeah, I like it.
The twist being dietary restrictions. So she had gluten-free toast, buttered. On that toast, two over medium eggs, and then a very specific bacon that she gets from Trader Joe's. Update for all of you: it is a Black Forest ham bacon.
And I was able to get the actual bacon, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, same. And then she also had the stipulation she normally drinks it with a cup of black coffee. I'm going to be honest, Adam. I haven't told you this yet. I cheated a little bit, and I did with my foods because for one, here's my thought process. I was eager to try gluten-free bread, but I knew that if I bought it for this, I would use one slice and waste the rest of a loaf of bread. And if I hate anything more than missing breakfast, it's wasting food.
That's fair. I
So
did have gluten-free toast.
great. So we'll have the honest take and then the my cheating take.
I will say, so I had lemon water because I don't drink coffee, but, I will say this: I have had bad gluten-free bread before because I've dated people who are gluten-free, and I have family members who are that way. And one of my best friends right now, Kelsey, is super gluten-free. So like, I'm very used to it. So that I actually think that the toast that I had was really good. Um, the thing that took it up to the level to me was I've had eggs with toast before, but I started doing this thing years ago when I was trying to get healthier. Is I stopped putting butter on my toast and I'm just eating
Mm.
toasted bread with no butter on it.
Ooh,
So going back to but I'm used to it. I like it. And I like the over easy eggs, right? And so dipping it in the yolk is fine for me, right? I
that's
don't
fair.
need the
Yeah.
butter.
Okay.
So going back to having the butter on the toast with the eggs on top was really nice. I also have found this really nice plant-based butter. That's very good and healthier for you. Yeah, I mean the specific bacon was awesome. I mean,
It's great
I
bacon.
like bacon. I'm more of a sausage guy in terms of breakfast proteins, but I loved the Black Forest ham bacon. It was awesome. Uh, I think I give this a solid 8 out of 10. And I think that I liked it because it is a classic breakfast, but the twists made it better.
That's that is a solid take. So I cheated. So take my rating with a grain of salt. Um, I will say same thing about the bacon. So much that I made a certain amount of bacon with this breakfast, and then saved the rest for later. And then my fiance ate all the rest of the bacon without me. She made it on 2 consecutive days, and she ate my bacon. And I was sad. I was sad. But I was happy because she normally skips breakfast. And so the fact that she was eating
To
breakfast
say.
I was like, you know
I
what? At
wonder,
least you're
so
eating
as a
breakfast.
dancer, does she have like a crazy metabolism and eats a lot of stuff?
Not honestly, not really.
Okay.
But she's got with like late night rehearsals. She has an interesting like sleep schedule that's different than mine. So
Okay, yeah, that's
normally
fair.
she wakes up later, and by the time she wakes up, she doesn't really want to eat breakfast because then she'll wait for lunch, and then we do eat dinner together. So it's
Oh,
kind
that's
of a
nice.
weird timing thing. But I will say that I don't do classic breakfasts too much, other than I'll just like fry some eggs. So having a buttered toast, which insight into mine. I was on theme with Trader Joe's. We had the Trader Joe's Black Forest ham bacon. So I got sourdough bread. I felt like having a solid slice of bread that is like toast material, buttered it up. The way Kylie described it was eggs and then bacon. that did make sense to me. I did bacon down first and then eggs. It doesn't. I don't think it really matters, but
I don't know, but
that
I did it exactly how she told me to do it, Chandler, and now you're
I
changing all
cheated.
the rules.
I'm a cheater breakfast eater. Okay, I I will say though something about a classic breakfast. It was solid, and I want to do it again. And I also gave it an 8 out of 10.
Nice, nice. I fear what's funny is we love breakfast, so naturally these numbers are always going to be higher. I fear the day that somebody gives us a breakfast weird enough that we're like, I hated it. It's a three.
I hate it, and I hate you. That
What's so
is what I
funny?
will
Our
say.
golden guest is going to give us the most terrible breakfast in the world. I know it.
And I will pretend to love it with every fiber of my being until he is off the podcast, and then we will complain about it to the end of our days.
And then the Patreon subscribers, it's like, if you want the real ranking, you've got to pay like a really large amount of money. Oh,
That
it's fun.
I eagerly await that day.
So that puts Kylie's breakfast solidly, I think, in like second or third place right now because yours top one is biscuits and gravy, right? And
It's
that'll
up.
never
It's
be
up
tough.
there.
So it's
There's a
up
few.
there.
There's a few breakfasts. It's definitely well. Unfortunately, to Ginny, she has been passed by a non-infinity.
That's true.
So it's still Ginny's was still good. It was, but the simplicity of I will say that 8 out of 10 for Kylie's breakfast does involve the simplicity.
Yes, I
It is
like that.
very
Yeah, that was
very
part of it for me.
straightforward.
I love that it was so simple and easy, and a couple things that were a little bit different really elevated it for me.
Ooh, question: did you bake your bacon in the oven or did you fry it?
I fried it. Yeah.
Good choice.
My roommate and I, we are a cast iron only house, and so I fry everything up in a cast iron, and it's always so much better than Teflon.
I do not use Teflon. I use a stainless steel, and
Well,
I
that's fair
season it.
too. That's
And
fair.
I do have to reseason it, not frequently, but enough. But
Yeah,
did
cooking in a
did you
cast.
save your did you save your bacon grease for your eggs later, or did you chuck that
Yes,
grease away? Good. Okay. Good boy.
I'm
Good
not a
country boy.
heathen.
Right. I'm just making sure to all of our listeners who are not familiar with. I'm sure this is a common thing. When you cook your bacon, don't waste that grease. It makes for
Yeah,
good eggs later.
it
I'm still
does.
working through that grease.
Or you can use it to make a gravy.
Yeah, I do. I prefer sausage gravy, but bacon
Yeah.
gravy's
Oh, I
still
mean,
good.
I'm with you for sure, but like you can use it for a lot of things. It's not you don't
Good
want to
point.
waste that.
It's a good point. So
So
what's
a
so what
sorry.
what stories have you been experiencing this last couple of weeks, Adam? Is that where you're trying to go?
Yeah, I was trying to. That's exactly where I was going to go. And then in my head, the one that I was going to say, I was like, "Oh, should I say that?" But no. So I think I've mentioned this in other shows before, but I've been recently rewatching Attack on Titan, and it's an anime. It's a phenomenal story, and if you've not watched it, like I cannot recommend something enough without being able to tell you information about it because it's so good that I don't want any of it spoiled for you. Because at the end of every episode, you literally say, "What the f." And it's every episode something crazy happens. But I'm thinking about it a lot because a lot of it centers around this community of people who live behind walls, and they're I don't even want to say shut off from the outside world. They don't even know if there is an outside world, right? Um, and so the idea of living a life where you don't even know what's out there, what kind of art those people can create, because we talk a lot about art as reaching out, and so I think that when you feel closed off from the world, or you feel lonely, or you feel away, that the level of imagination and creative inspiration you can have, I think, is exponential. Not to say, hey, lock yourself behind a wall and that'll make you more creative, but I do think of people who are, I think of lonely, tortured people and history becoming incredible storytellers. I mean, like the number one on the list would be like Ernest Hemingway was a very tortured and lonely man, but wrote these incredible stories, right? And I think that that's true for a lot of storytellers and writers and stuff. But I'm thinking about that a lot as I have felt a little more on the lonely side recently. But I've been rewatching the show, and there's just so much. Like it's hard to recommend it to people because anything that I want to say that's cool is a spoiler. So if you're somebody who's even remotely into anime, get yourself a 2 week free trial of Crunchyroll on Amazon Prime. Um, If you can't afford it, you can use my login. I'm dead serious. Let me know. You can use my login. And just watch the first couple episodes. And if it doesn't hook you, that's fine. Move on. But like, I'm willing to bet it'll hook you because it's a phenomenal story.
And you're making me want to watch it.
It's great.
I've heard it. I've seen it. Like I've
They're
not
also
watched it, but I've seen it.
they're
Like
also
on.
under 20-minute episodes each, so it's so easy to watch like one or two. You
I
know,
I struggle with, which is weird. Like shorter, like 20-minute episode. I feel like that's harder for me because they're so easy to binge. I get really lost in myself, and I know myself well enough to know the more I start binging something, the worse I feel. And I cling to it. I will keep coming back, but it will make me feel worse. It's like why I've had to set limits on my phone for TikTok because it's so
that's
easy to
fair.
scroll for hours.
That's fair.
And I
Yeah,
ignore those limits so much. And I really need to, I don't know, maybe Attack on Titan would be a better alternative than 15 extra
I will
minutes
say
on
this:
TikTok.
as emotionally devastating as it can be at times, it is so fulfilling as an artist to see a type of art that you're like, I want to create art like that. And it's like it's motivating for me to watch something like this show and be like, oh man, I want to create art that makes people feel the way I feel right now.
Man, I'm torn between talking about two things. One of them is, okay, we're talking about dark. So I'm going to go with, I just last night, I watched I'm going to mention my fiance for the 20th time this episode. We watched a movie that is based on a true story, I guess, about I guess he's considered a serial killer. It's Anna Kendrick starring and directed film called Woman of the Hour.
Ooh, I have not watched this. I really want to watch it.
Okay, I won't give you spoilers. I won't say anything about the content. I will say I wasn't a big fan of the writing of the show. I think the production was well done, and I think the story is worth as dark and as hard as it is to watch at
Yeah,
times. I think the story is worth seeing. I think it's something that we all should realize has happened, and we should do better. But I bring it up just from the nature of, and to our listeners, you'll get this later in the episode, but just the feeling of like that feeling of being alone is is a common theme for a lot of the characters in this. I will say in this story because it's not just a film; it's also true events. But the the motif of being alone and how sometimes opening up and being vulnerable can be helpful and sometimes can be dangerous, and just being cautious of that was I just think a very relevant thing to bring up for this episode. But on a less dark note, I will also say just because I thought it, I watch it every week. I want to share it, and it may not be something that you would immediately think, oh, story. But Juliana and I also watch Survivor every week, and it is fascinating to see how these people are like writing their own story in real time, like these events and these vulnerabilities, these reaching out, these hopes, these offers, and acceptings and rejections of these offers, to kind of, that's not like traditional improv terminology, but like when you're giving an ask or making an offer, just to like see how they all play, and these dynamics shifting, and also to talk about people feeling alone in a space where you're surrounded by people and cameras is crazy, but then other people thinking and feeling so secure, but really they're not.
I've never been a Survivor watcher, but I feel like I'd love it.
You
Um,
would.
the first guy voted off is one of the podcast hosts of a podcast I listen to every week, Pod Save America. He was
The
the first
first the
guy.
first guy ever voted off of Survivor,
No, on this season.
or in this season. Who was
Yeah,
the first guy who?
I think his name is John.
Yeah,
No,
John.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he was one of the hosts of Pod Save America. And they did a really cool episode where he explained like the behind the scenes of it, which was really cool to listen to. So I suggest you even go back and listen if you're a Survivor fan, because I feel like it's probably cooler for a Survivor fan to hear the behind the scenes. But so they were not allowed to have, even when you're voted off first, you have to stay for the entire 6 weeks so that nothing gets spoiled. Because if somebody's like, oh well, you were home in a week, I know you're voted off first, right? But so he had to stay in a hotel for 6 weeks, and he's just like, every week somebody new comes back and it's like, oh, okay, and then he gets to hear the story. But he talked about how he had no news, didn't know what was going on, and so they did an episode where he didn't look anything up, and his other hosts said three headlines, and they were like, pick which one is fake. And they're all like insane things that happened, and so that was a cool episode too. But um, yeah, I feel like I'd love it. I watched Deal or No Deal Island, which is kind of like Survivor adjacent, and I
Get
loved
out
it.
of here. Get
Dude, it
out
was,
of here.
oh, but it's so fun. It's so funny because they're taking it so seriously, and they're like crawling through mud to find a case. It's really funny,
Yeah, I
and it's Joe Manganiello, who's a big D&D guy.
yeah, he is. I am worried if you started watching Survivor, I'm worried you would get too into it.
I would. I mean, the big deterrent is the gross stuff that they have them do sometimes. I don't know
Which
if I like that.
it's not super common. There were people eating grubs on this last episode,
Yeah, I think that would make me gag.
but that's only recently coming back. They don't do that too
That's
often.
why I couldn't watch Fear Factor.
That's fair. I don't watch Fear Factor. Yeah, no. But you can close your eyes for those parts.
That's fair. Plug my ears and close my eyes and tell me when it's over. All right. Today's guest on our show is my little sister, Emily Joanne Rossi. I often tell people, also this is surprising to me sometimes. Not so much anymore because I heard a lot. It's surprising to me how many people don't like their siblings or don't like their family, but my sisters are my two favorite people. I don't get to talk to them nearly as much as I'd like to. I don't see them nearly as much as I want to. But my two sisters, my older sister Allison and my younger sister Emily, I love them more than you could ever possibly love somebody, and they are two of my favorite people. So if I couldn't get both of them on and I'm choosing one, the only reason I chose Emily was because we already had somebody who was a singer songwriter, which my older sister is. But Emily being an author and a poet and also having a theater background as well, I thought we would have some really interesting conversations. So, Emily, a published poet, and also has written a novel that she's trying to find representation for. She is our interviewee today, so let's get to that interview.
Time to dig in.
This morning we are joined by my little sister, Emily Joanne Rossi, and if you didn't know her middle name, now you do. Emily, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Internally, Emily's academic brain is probably fritzing out, thinking it's not the morning. But you guys are listening in the morning because we do this for breakfast. We don't do it for any other meal
Adam,
of the
it's
day.
morning somewhere.
It's true. It's always morning.
This
somewhere.
minute, there is someone eating breakfast somewhere in the world right now.
Hey, merch idea. It's we eat stories for breakfast, and it says it's always breakfast somewhere.
I love it.
Steal that
I want a
tagline.
hat. It's always breakfast somewhere.
Oh,
Hat.
I do prefer the hat. That's great. We're gonna do that. Anyway, well, normally sometimes what we do with guests is we introduce them and say like they do this, this, and this, right? So Emily is an author and a published work of poetry. It's right here. She also has a theater background. We've talked about theater in previous episodes, things like that. But Emily, just before we get into the questions, just like a quick intro of like who you are, what you do, your sort of creative background. This is not the first question, but just a quick introduce yourself.
Okay. It's so funny because it's actually so hard to do that. I think you talk to people who
I know.
write and tell stories, and everyone's like, you should be able to talk about yourself. You write. And you're like, no, that's actually the hardest thing ever. Um, but so I do have a creative background. I've been writing for fun for a really long time to keep myself company. But I did study creative writing in college. I did theater in high school. And I also studied anthropology in college, which doesn't sound like it would fit, but I actually think informed a lot of my writing and experiences in a cool way to, hear about other cultural experiences and such. And then in September of 2021, I published a small work of my poetry and short stories, which was a really, really sweet first official chapter in my writing career. And then I am working on getting an agent for a finished novel at the moment, which is super exciting. But yeah, I think that's like the professional
Yeah,
background.
no,
I
that's
do
good.
marketing for a cosmetology school, which is also fun and creative and different. and I do have a cosmetology license, so that's kind of a creative background too. So yeah, just
Telling
a whole bunch of
story with
stuff.
hairdos and makeup.
Yeah, yeah, hair expression.
Emily, so one of my favorite things about you is that I think you're endlessly quotable, and you just had one that I don't even know if you realize that you said, I've been writing to keep myself company, and I think that's such a wonderful way to talk about like art, and especially writing, where it's those moments where you feel like you don't have anything else, and so you just have to put something out in the world. And even though it's
Yeah,
your creation, it's something else in the world that's not you. And so that's a really beautiful thing. All
yeah.
right, let's dive in, huh? Let's go to the first course for breakfast. Emily,
Yum,
the first
yum.
question, and again, keep in mind a lot of these are vague and general on purpose to give you free reign. What is your story? Tell us about you.
You know my brain hates free reign. I need structure. This is so hard. What's my story? Okay. Um, I guess going off of the whole keeping myself company thing, I honestly think being the youngest sibling led me to storytelling because at first I did it because I kind of wanted the attention, right? Like I wanted to be the funny one or the witty one, or I was like, how can I get the attention of not only my parents, but you and our other sister Allison, because you guys were so larger than life to me. Um, but then I so quickly found out that, I actually liked it for myself and not necessarily for just getting other people to pay attention to me. And it was good company. I mean, they it's so cliche, they say that writing and stories and books are such an escape, and they really are. But it's so funny, it's like the only escape journey where you can also find a lot of things about yourself, which is super cool. um and yeah, I think I've been obsessed with books and writing since, I don't even know, can't even pinpoint it. I think for books it was Nancy Drew in middle school, which I then read every single Nancy Drew story in the middle school library. That poor librarian, I think, quit after that. Um, and yeah, I mean, we're such a movie family. Like I think 85% of my brain chemistry is made up of movies and television shows and quotes. And it's so funny, like in our family, we can hear the way someone says something and we can both think of the same movie, which is just fascinating and horrifying at the same time. But it's also kind of fun because it's like this new form of communication. Like stories give you a new way to communicate with each other that feels really like special and relational. And I think I love that part of it too. It's like a different language almost, where you can bond with someone on a deeper level, on a really fun level. And I'm honestly obsessed. I'm obsessed with it. I've always known that I would never not be writing or reading because my life is so dull without it.
Yeah, I like this idea. A lot of the other guests that we've had is this idea of storytelling born out of necessity, right?
Hmm.
And less of a chosen vocation, right? It's a survival instinct, right? I needed this, right? And then the more and more you absorb it, the more and more you feel like you need it, you know? That makes it sound like a drug.
It is kind of, though. It is. I will say too, I always like to give credit to our parents because I think we had the privilege of coming from a very creative family. Like dad's side is full of artists, and our sister sings and she takes photos, and you're a writer and a director and you act, and our father can build just about anything, even if he's never seen it. And mom's a hairstylist too, and I think having the privilege to daydream with open parents and just dream together with them and feel free in that, I think we never felt like we couldn't do the things we wanted to in life, even if it wasn't a traditional career or hobby, which a lot of people don't have. And I think that's such a core part of who we are. And it's super cool that we had that privilege.
There's this really cool, well, the way I see it, and going like touching on some of the things you mentioned, both as like speaking, telling story from necessity, but also
Mm-hmm.
this daydreaming and playing. I don't know that I've specifically heard a lot of other people say this like word for word or just blatantly or bluntly say this, but I'm finding that a lot of like there's a two sort of main like drives behind some types of storytelling, and like my brain goes to like Dungeons and Dragons, just because
Mm-hmm.
I'm always thinking about D&D because I'm a huge nerd. Um, One of those, like the necessity part, like things build up and build up until you need to process what you're feeling somehow, and when you're
Yeah.
not able to internally do that, you look externally for how can I take what I'm feeling and either process and understand it or use it to build something that is positive where I'm
Yeah.
feeling negative. But then there's also that like escapism element where you're totally needing to just check out from what's happening to give yourself that space. And
Yeah.
it's really cool to hear someone like mention both of those almost in the same sentence, like
Yeah.
this playing aspect and like this let me step out of what's happening, but in sort of out of necessity in a way to process, like let me step back for myself so that I can understand myself, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
but in a
Yeah.
very artsy. And so I don't know, I just wanted to comment that was just
Yeah.
really cool that you mentioned both of those things, which
Yeah.
is
I think,
sorry, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead. I was just going to say, I think poetry specifically works so well with that. And it's funny because I didn't like poetry. You're not supposed to say that as someone that's published a poetry work together. But um, I had to study it in college as part of my degree. They were like, you have to take this class, and I was like, okay, I'll do anything for a grade. But it was like the second I started experimenting with poetry, I realized the depth of process that you could experience with it, like exactly like you were saying, where it was even more personal of an experience than I'd ever experienced with storytelling. And it literally started healing things that I didn't even know needed healed or looked at again, because poetry is such a direct, like, in a novel, you could write 50,000 words and get to the point on page 300. But with a poem, you get to the point right there on that single page. And so it kind of forces you to stare down the barrel of your feelings in a really scary, but like really cool way, like to process what's inside.
Well, that also is, it makes sense for you who at the top of this said that you like structure and you don't like the general. And
I
I feel
do.
like while there is plenty of structure to poetry, I wouldn't say there isn't. I feel like with novels and, we'll say plays, as somebody who writes plays, there is a common structure with those more so than poetry, whereas poetry is so like somebody said that like poetry is like cutting yourself open and just bleeding on the paper, and
Yeah,
that's what
that's
you're
about
doing.
right.
But like being able to, uh, I don't even want to say comfortable, but being willing to go to the unstructured and just kind of like let things be what they may, uh, is not only a brave thing, but it's an incredibly hard thing to do. Because I try to write poetry. I have a notes app on my phone of really terrible poetry. But sometimes all it takes is this to like feel a little bit better in a dark moment. It's to write something down.
Exactly.
Maybe one of them is good, but sometimes it's just putting it on the paper. That's awesome though.
Yeah,
Good
just the
answers.
act. Yeah, the act sometimes. I will say too, that makes me think of, in the process of writing, when I was writing Growing Pains, which is the collection's title, um, I wasn't writing it to publish it. Like,
Right.
when I look back, when I was looking at all my notes, it was like a sticky note from working the front desk at the salon, or like alongside my um cultures and religions class in college. Like, it was just like things that I had to put down in the moment. And then eventually I had so many of them, and I was so healed from most of it, that I was like, oh my gosh, what if this, what if sharing my process helped one person because they related to it in some way. But as I was putting it down, I had no intention of ever sharing it because it's so personal.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not a fictional character. It's like Emily's writing this and she's talking to you about,
Her
her
growing
mental
pains.
health. Yeah, yeah.
You kind of You've definitely hinted and foreshadowed a lot with what your answer might be to this question, but for formality and structure's sake, and also in an effort to, as you put it, get to the point, what does storytelling mean to you?
Yeah. That's so, it feels so hard because it's so broad. But I think, especially when it comes to poetry, but I think all storytelling really is like this. offering. It's, even if it's fiction, it's incredibly personal. It's pieces of yourself. And obviously in poetry, it's more hefty pieces of yourself. But I think in any fiction or fantasy piece, or even beyond writing, podcasts, video games, like anything that has storytelling or plot, like there's pieces of someone in there that's real, and that's what makes it good. So I think it's an incredibly unselfish, selfish process, because it's so life-giving and growing for the person that's doing it, and it's so fun. Like, it's so fun for me, but it's also cool because you're like, this thing that means something to me could mean something to someone else, and I have no idea how, but I'm just going to trust that if I'm being authentic and honorable with my story, that might help someone else in turn feel like they can find the way to honor their story, and kind of like domino effect affect more and more people. So it's so cool that this incredibly fun, process can be this healing thing, this growing thing, and also this community thing that might mean something to someone else. Like, that's so special.
This is my favorite question, and we are 5 for 5 on completely different answers, which I think is so wonderful. I 7 for 7 if you include Chandler and I's episode that will never be released. Um, I just love the idea of it's an offering, and
Yeah.
nobody's put it that way yet so far on our show, and it's so funny you're talking about poetry and writing, right? Because you're a writer, but that's such a role playing game concept too. Of
Hmm.
we're playing characters, but there's always pieces of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And the joke with tabletop role playing games is that it's free therapy because you really are kind of you're picking a part of yourself to role play a little bit, and
Yeah.
in the hours and hours and hours that you're playing make believe, you're actually kind of working through things that you put in that character. And so as you
Yeah.
are writing out a poem about something, and again, like, I'll keep referencing it because I this is a great book. um, but like
No bias at all, of
you
course.
can read a couple like as you're reading some of the poems, you can feel you work through something in that moment, right? And those are my favorite pieces of art where it's an offering of yourself, but in that process of like taking that piece and offering it to somebody else, you're automatically seeing it from a different POV, and in that process, you're already starting to look at yourself differently.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a generous, stories are such a generous thing, because they don't have to be for anybody else, right? Like, I didn't have to share the poems, uh, you know, but you just never know. You just never know um, what it could be to someone else. It's just super cool.
Sorry, I'm the quote writer of the podcast. We keep a running list of quotes and books and stuff and pieces of art that people mention. So I'm writing stories are such a generous thing. I think that's beautiful.
Mm.
All right, let's go to the next question. So we've talked a lot about so far storytelling as a conduit for your own healing. And so perhaps this will be something that also connects to you in that manner. But talking about a story that you doesn't have to be recently. Maybe it's the one that's given the most emotional response. Or what's a story that's evoked a really powerful emotional response in you?
That is so hard. I know you gave me the questions ahead of time, but I wrote several things down because I didn't know which one I was going to feel like I wanted to go with. So I might mention two. I hope that's okay. um, I will say, and I've talked to Adam, I've talked to you about this story a lot. I can't quite pinpoint it, but there's a novel called Migrations,
I've read
that
it. Very good.
Charlotte, you have. Thank you for taking that. For Charlotte McConaughey.
McConaughey,
I
I
don't
think. I
know.
think it's
Feel bad that
McConaughey.
I. Okay, McConaughey. Um, it's called Migrations. Um, I feel as though on the surface it sounds like a very mundane novel, but there's just something in the way that she writes. I was not even that far into the first chapter and I had to stop, and I was like, this girl could make me feel for anything. Like, she was writing about birds, and don't get me wrong, I love a good bird. Like, birds are beautiful, but I just was so impressed. I felt like her whole emotion was somehow like painted on this page, and I just like felt it, and I suddenly was super passionate about this thing that I'd never thought about my whole life. So when I think about like the kind of writer I want to be, she's someone I think of because her writing is so connected, and it's just very evocative. Like she would be talking about the most mundane things, and I'd be like, my whole soul has changed just based off the way that she said this thing. She also wrote a novel called Once They Were Wolves, which is also very good. But there's something about migrations. I don't know. It
Having read
just
having read both of them, um, she's really good at writing catharsis
mm,
and making it feel earned because
yes,
I think a lot of artists um, everybody is kind of searching for that aha moment in their book in
yeah,
their movie in their show and a lot of it falls flat because it hasn't been earned. I also think that it comes back to like um, theater backgrounds and talking about earning a beat or earning a moment and things like that that I connect with more with stories that are able to do that really well. And so when you reach the the third act um, peak of the climax of the story in the in the Arctic, it's like this huge moment, and you can't help but cry. I mean, I'm a big emotional guy anyway, but like but it's just
what?
yeah, it's hard to describe. I highly recommend it as well. Emily's really good at recommendations of those kind of things. I've
Ugh,
never read a book that she's recommended that I
it's
was
the
like, ugh.
biggest compliment you could ever give me. Check out.
I said this about my best friend Josh's wife, also one of my best friends, Jenna. If one of the two of you say you should read this book, not like I like this book, but if you say you should read this, it's going to be the next one on my list because I know it's going to be good. Um,
Yeah.
so
Well, it means a lot. My
We all
my
need better book
second.
recommendations.
What did you say?
We all need better book
we
recommendations.
do.
I know. I mean, I well, that's also cool too. I love book recs because I feel like again, it's a relational thing. I'm like, it means so much to me that A, you read that and you liked it too, because then I feel connected to you in a deeper way. My second one that I was going to mention was The Nightingale. I don't know, have either of you ever read The Nightingale
I think I've heard of it, but I have not read it.
by Kristen Hanna? It is a historical fiction novel. I had never read one before. It is about the Holocaust, so it's a very heavy book. But when I tell you, I have not cried while reading a book in such a long time. And I was reading this at my parents' kitchen table, and I start crying, sniffling, all the stuff. My dad comes into the room and he goes, "You crying over the you're crying over the book?" And I was like, "No,
Uh,
this book, not me." And completely ruined the moment for me. So I will be writing him out of my will immediately. But
right.
The Nightingale's also really good, really heavy, but also really beautiful. And again, those are two stories that I have no real connection to either of those experiences because I'm not, I don't, I've never been to these places. I've never been in these experiences, but the fact that someone could make me feel connected to them is just super cool. And the beauty of storytelling, because we don't just experience stories that we understand, we also experience ones that we don't. And that, again, is just someone offering something that's going to improve our life and relationships. It's just such a powerful thing.
I would almost be inclined to say that reading or in taking or experiencing stories about people and places that you don't directly relate to are far more important
Yeah.
to most people than ones that they do relate to, because it helps you gain this understanding and connect with other people in a way that, I mean, normally you just wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. So slap me on the hand if that's the case. But am I allowed to ask you guys what the last thing you had an emotional response to was? Because
Well,
I'm very
the
curious.
answer for me is anything that I last
Emily
cry
Henry.
about everything. No, I will say, um, I I'm not a huge anime person, but we grew up in the Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and Dragon Ball Z era, so like I watched those growing up, and those are kind of like Dragon Ball Z is far more anime than the other two, but they're all anime technically.
Yeah.
But I think I may have mentioned this on the show before, but I've watched this anime called Attack on Titan, and I think it's the greatest story ever told. But I rewatched it, and it's one of those shows where on the rewatch you notice 1,000 more things. And I got to the end of it, and I was just sobbing. Like I I say I cry a lot, and sometimes when I say I cry, I mean like my eyes got watery, right? And I feel emotional, right? But like when I say sobbing, I mean like I'm like coughing and gagging because I'm crying so hard.
Yeah.
And then there's there's a song that's sort of tied to Attack on Titan edits on TikTok. It's called "Somewhere Only We Know" by Keen. But
Oh,
recently, it
love
was a
that
great
song.
song. It actually like some of the lyrics are like literal spoilers for some things that happen in the fourth season, and no, it's insane. But Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars recently released a new song called "Die with a Smile." Um, and so the concept of die with a smile is like I had a dream that like the world was ending and you weren't there, and it was so
Mm,
sad that I was like I'm gonna live every moment with you that I have because it may be the last moment that we have, and that's kind of like what happens in the Attack on Titan. And so I finished that story, that anime, and I was listening to the song, walking home from the bar, crying the whole way. And that's the yeah. I won't. I don't want to admit really what the one particular line that makes me cry the most because I feel like it's
is it a
very
spoiler?
sad. No, it's not a
Oh,
spoiler. It's
oh,
just
okay, okay.
really depressing. So I'll let Chandler answer.
I appreciate that. I'm not in a place to cry at the moment, so
Yeah, yeah.
I don't need to hear
We're
your
all
dark
smiling
side.
right now, so
Yeah, I know that there's been something more recently, but my brain doesn't work with time the way most people's brains work with time. So I cannot
no,
tell
mine's
you.
the same.
Normally, I have higher emotional responses to like shows and movies. I've had a
Hmm.
really strong one a few years ago. I think I mentioned to Adam in our it might have been our episode 0, a movie called A Man Called Otto, which is based off a
Yes.
book, A Man Called Otto. That
Yeah.
you're going to be like crying a little bit at the beginning, kind of getting invested the next 30 minutes, and then you're just going to cry the whole time.
It's Tom
It's
Hanks, right?
so
Wow.
yeah, Tom Hanks.
Oh, well,
But most
sure.
recently, there are a couple of books recently that have made me not severely like a massive emotional impact, but like just really hit home.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to mention the name of them on the podcast.
It's true. We're not allowed to mention
Okay.
him.
It
Okay.
is a very specific author, and I will describe the moments in the book that get to me the most. There is a really strong, what would be stereotypically considered like a strong male character that men should look up to,
Hmm.
but you're constantly getting this look into his life as how he doesn't live up to who he thinks he should be, even though everybody else puts him like on a pedestal above like the rest of the world. And it just goes through his struggle with his mental health, not feeling enough, not being able to be there for everybody, even though he's there for most people. And there's just some really heavy hitting parts of some of these books, and I think the most emotional parts for me are the ones where he's finally able to like love himself and accept himself and admit that just because he's failed a couple times doesn't make him a failure. And those have just been like, and also he's got a weird relationship with his dad, and like fathers and sons for some reason
Yeah.
always gets me. I have a healthy relationship with my dad, but father and son dynamics get me every time.
Yes. Yes.
That
I think
one
we
scene
just
in Love,
love
Simon.
oh, yeah, I know. I think we just love seeing you like men being open to experiencing things and not being stereotypical, if that makes sense. Like breaking free from what they're supposed to be and just
Yeah,
experiencing
I
their
think I have a
experience.
healthy relationship
Super
with
emotional.
I think I have a healthy relationship with our dad too, but the scene in Enter the Spider Verse where the dad's on the one side of the door talking to his son makes me cry every time, and it's not, you know what I mean? I think it's more because I picture like dad saying something like that to us that is, like encouraging and uplifting, so that's part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, you derailed the podcast, so I don't
Sorry.
even
I'm
know.
sorry.
I think it's Chandler's turn to ask a question.
I'm never invited back on
Yeah,
again.
well,
I can't
I
help it.
no, you're. It's all right. Don't worry. I'm going to save it with an amazing segue that would have been far better 20 minutes ago.
Okay,
But
I'm ready.
speaking of book recommendations,
Just cut out that entire
We're
middle section.
that's for the Patreon only. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
If you're
Speaking
just
of,
getting back to the podcast, you just missed something cool.
Yeah.
But you can't listen to it unless you go on Patreon.
$39.99 a month.
for 2 episodes. So speaking of book recommendations and story recommendations, what is a story that you find yourself referencing a lot?
An easy one would be Nancy Drew, just because I literally think a pie of my heart is made up of Nancy Drew, because not only were they my first books, but they were also I played all of those games, and I still do to this day. I replay them
It's
like a
locked.
crazy person. It's locked. Can't check that off yet.
Chandler has no idea what we're talking about. So in these games, Chandler, we used to play them together. There's like a handful of stock responses that Nancy's character has to you trying to
Clearly.
do something. And so every time you try to open a door, it just goes, it's locked. Or she goes, I don't think I should go in there.
And then sometimes you just get so annoyed that you keep making her do it, and you
Yeah.
picture everyone else outside of her being like, why is she just standing by the door saying it's locked? But that's only on really dark days where you're about to rage quit. And anyone who's played video games knows what rage quitting is.
I don't have a problem, Nancy. You have a problem.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think you're the one that's locked out, not me.
Exactly.
So Nancy Drew is like an easy one for me, because I think I'm like, in my head, I'm always like, that was like my first role model, and I still play those games to this day. Lately, it's been, and this is not like a serious answer, it's just where I'm at in my life. But lately, I've been talking a lot about ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, because
Peep in the
I finally
background.
got,
Peep in the background.
yeah, they are back there. What? No, I don't own those books. I finally got bullied into reading them. And it took me back to being a child, where you literally do nothing but read because you're obsessed, like reading Harry Potter or reading Percy Jackson or reading The Hunger Games and Twilight and Divergent, like all of those series that were like my first chapter in reading, like that obsessive. I love this place. I can't wait to escape to it because it's so exciting. I was like, I love these so much. I haven't read like that in forever. And now I like, anytime someone sounds like they might mention it, I'm like, have you read ACOTAR? It's so good. But you know, I know it's not like Charles Dickens or something like that, but
Chandler, have you read ACOTAR? I know you're a fantasy guy.
Juliana, actually, my fiance, started reading them. I am currently glued to my current series, which is more of just one series. It's a bajillion series. Once I catch up on that, I need a serious palate cleanser with something non-fantasy, probably. I've not
Fair.
read it.
fair.
It's very good.
It is.
I've heard.
Yeah,
I've
if I didn't
heard.
just pitch it to you in that crazy explanation, I don't know what will.
Well, it has to be on my list now.
Yeah, it does. It's sort of a whole experience. Even if you don't like it, I think you have to do it for the experience of.
Yeah. It's also just like I had just barely finished. No, I was in like the last 100 pages of the fourth Game of Thrones book, and I couldn't do it. And then I picked up ACOTAR, and it was such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Like George R. R. Martin writes like he's a historian from a fake world, and first of all, that's a wildly impressive thing. That is incredibly
is.
impressive that you can write like that. It's boring, and I don't want to read it. And Sarah J. Maas is like, "What if we had fun reading?" And I'm like, "What if we did?"
Yes, that. Yes, I'm all here for that. It is it is kind of like a palate cleanser, even for fantasy, I think, because if you don't read too much in it and you're into it and you're just like, I'm just having fun and this is entertaining and that's okay, then you're just gonna have a blast with it. And
It's also really crazy to hear, Chandler, for context, my little sister recommending a fantasy book because she's not like a fantasy reader,
I'm
and so
not.
that she blew through these is actually a really big compliment.
That's a good point. That's a good point. A recommendation of a fantasy series by a poet, of all things.
I
of
mean,
all people.
Have you ever seen it before? I don't know.
There's one.
I have
there's,
now.
there's like one poem in it in the first one, and it's supposed to be this riddle, and it's the easiest riddle you'll ever hear in your entire
Oh
life.
my
And
gosh.
some
Yeah,
people
how
are like,
funny.
"What? That's what it was?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course it was."
All right, if you're a real fan, off the top of your head, what's the riddle?
Whoa. I know the answer.
I do know the
I know
answer,
the answer to it. I
but I
do
don't
know
want
the
to
answer
spoil it
to
for
it.
those of you who can't get
No,
riddles.
I'm gonna read it. I wanna feel smart and get it immediately.
Chandler, I want you to read it so bad, and I want you to text me and be like, "I don't know what it is, Adam."
I'm just
I
gonna
will
text you that
say
in like a month.
something great about this series too is it's the memes are so unmatched. Like you're the I swear the second I picked up this book, my phone was like, Emily's reading Akatar.
Yep,
And my whole For You page was a bunch of spoilers that I had to dodge like mines, and I think it's the most impressive thing I've ever done to not get spoilers.
it is very
Um,
funny.
but the memes are so good. Again,
I
it's like
agree.
this other language that now like I have this new way of joking with my friends now that I'm like in the Akatar club and I can understand them. They're so funny. They're so funny.
Similar to the He Who Must Not Be Named books, Chandler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I
Oh,
was like
you're
Harry
he.
Potter.
I
No,
No,
know.
our
we're
he
Wait.
who must
we're
not
not
be
talking about
named.
Harry Potter. We're talking about
Yeah,
the
You're
yeah,
author
yeah,
talking
that we're
about
not
this
allowed.
yeah,
mysterious
Yeah.
author you're
yeah.
not allowed to
We're
Uh-huh.
talking
mention.
about the. We can put in a bleep there, and then it'll
Oh,
be
that'd be fun.
hilarious.
I put it. I. What's funny is on our first episode, we joked about bleeping Jenny, and I bleeped her first one, and then I let the rest go.
Yeah, I did notice
I,
that.
I don't know if people were gonna thought it was think it was sloppy or funny, but I thought it was funny.
I think just doing
Um,
the one is hilarious because she asks if she can, right?
well, it's
Yes,
so
she
funny
did.
because she does it and immediately goes, "Am I allowed to swear?"
Yeah, you have to ask for
Yeah.
permission and then you can swear. That's
That's
the new
hilarious.
rule.
Well, I actually think Akatar is a really good jumping off point for the next question because I don't know if I would, and I struggle with this, like what's good and what's not in terms of the story, but like I don't even know if I would consider Akatar like good, but I love it, right? And so for
Yeah.
you, what makes a story good?
I think there's two answers. I think
Good.
as a reader,
I agree.
did I just pass a test?
You did it. Ding 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 ding. Tell her what she won,
Yes.
Jammer.
The knowledge that there are actually three answers.
Whoa. I can't wait to hear the third answer. I thought you were going to like give me keys to a new car or something,
Yeah.
but that's
Well,
okay. That's,
Well, that was the
knowledge
original
is good
goal,
too.
but I do need
Yeah.
a new car, so I'm just going to keep that.
You keep it. You keep it. As long as you give me the third answer. I would say for a reader, what makes a good story is anything that makes you feel something. I know that's so broad, but I just think it's true. Like because Akatar is a great example. Did I get emotional reading it? No. But I felt something. Like I still felt connected to it because I was so invested and I had so much fun and it was so entertaining and again it connected me to people around me in a really cool way. Um like another layer in our relationship that was super fun. But as a writer, I think what makes a good story definitely making someone feel something. But I think the moment that you know you're onto something good is when the story begins to feel like something like happened upon, like it already existed, and I'm just like excavating it, like it's just there, and I just took the time to look at it and to investigate a little bit, and I'm like unearthing it for you. Like it feels like this own lived thing. Like maybe a character when I'm writing them says something that I didn't plan on them saying, or like a plot discovery happens and I'm like, what? She did what? And you're like, you're the one writing it, like whatever. But it's sort of like feels when it feels like outside of your control. Like you're giving yourself to it, but you're not making decisions for it when you don't need to, because there's something really cool I think that happens in the creative process um when you give but you don't hold on too tightly either. And then I think that makes it for readers really meaningful because five people could read it and each of them glean something totally different because you didn't control it too much where there's only one experience of it. If that makes sense. I feel like I got lost in my words a little bit there.
yeah, it's fun that the one question about um defining storytelling is always so different, but the what
Mm-hmm.
makes a good story normally hovers around that the idea of feeling something, of something
Yeah.
being felt. People normally hover around that a lot, and I kind of like that universal description of it. Um, Yeah, sorry, I got lost in a thought.
That's okay. It requires, I just think good storytelling requires a lot of humility because it requires honesty from the reader and the writer. And sometimes it reveals things about yourself or the world or society, at large that you don't really always want to hear or admit to yourself or admit about the place that you live or the people that you know. But when we're being honest, like that and being humble with our story and other people's stories, I think it comes across in the whatever storytelling medium you're working on or through. I mean,
We found out the third one
what
Humility.
was
is
it?
it's memes.
Oh, I was gonna say cheesecake, but there wasn't a good time to insert that
Oh,
punchline.
Yeah.
I was
I
waiting
love
for. So what's the third?
yeah,
The third thing.
I
Oh,
love cheesecake.
glad you
Cheesecake.
asked. Yeah, cheesecake's the best. But this isn't a podcast about cheesecake. It's a
You
podcast
could
about
have
story.
cheesecake at a brunch, which is technically breakfast. So,
It's a
Wouldn't a
fair point.
breakfast cheesecake just be like a quiche?
Or like a
mm,
Danish,
yeah, like
you know?
maybe like a considered a pastry of some sort.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is it could work.
they do cheesecake danishes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
they
know
do.
what?
No, they do actually.
You know what? That's a good point. And Adam, we have to find cheesecake danishes for December now.
Okay, yeah, they're gonna be in Boston somewhere.
Yeah, and
We're not
put
going to
that
be
on
in
a
Boston.
t-shirt
Oh, I
too
thought that's
while
where
you're
we were
at it.
going. Where are we going?
It's Philly.
Oh, close enough.
Yeah, we're doing for our listeners. We're doing a little micro podcast tour. We're not going to do any
Cool.
live shows, I don't think, but we'll be in
Probably not.
Philly.
Wait, is that real? Are you joking?
No,
Are you being real?
there's a board game convention happening the second weekend in December, that in Philadelphia that we're both going to.
We are going to
Cool.
try to lick the Liberty Bell, but we may not make it.
Ah, well, hopefully no one that guards the Liberty Bell is listening to this podcast. Otherwise, you're toast. They're going to know you're coming.
Did I have my mother reference, or did you just say?
Yeah, no.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Oh.
Well, go ahead.
Well, yeah. Bad with segues. I would like to note that was a good little unintentional reference to our one of the most common breakfast staples, toast. I would happily be toast if it was for the podcast. I think that you've definitely already answered this, but again, for structure and to really beat the point home, what is the format of storytelling that you are the most well versed or comfortable in?
I would say poetry and like long form prose because I write novels as well.
So I guess, sorry to interrupt, but I just so that you can maybe extrapolate on that, because
Mhm.
I feel like if somebody asked me what yours was, I would just say writing in general. But you said poetry first. Do you really feel that comfortable? Like that is the number one that you feel most comfortable in?
Um, I don't know if I'd use those words because it's not always super comfortable. It often is way harder than writing um like a structured long story in a novel or a short story even. Because it's harder to work through yourself without lying than it is to just make up things for a fiction story. But I it feels easier because I've done it before and I feel like I've kind of made friends with that process. Like I know, like I've seen the results of it before where that it like did something for me. So going into that space again, still like uncomfortable because you're like looking at yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh, what's that? Um, but it's like I know that it pays off because I experienced so much like blessing and richness and value and just friendship and connection doing, sharing the collection that I did publish, that my brain's like, hey, like my brain is like always to my heart, like it's gonna be okay, you can write it down, like no one's gonna, like ram into your, room and be like, you can't write that down and arrest me for telling my feelings. um so the logic and the heart kind of clash a lot, but I'm like, if I can just get them talking,
If I
we're
could just get
cool.
them talking.
It's
Oh, that's
gravy.
cool. That's a
Yeah.
cool way to say that. Yeah, I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna steal that. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't, I didn't give permission for that.
It's fine.
You
That
said
wasn't
Art.
it on the
asked at the beginning of this
podcast.
podcast.
It is now the material and intellectual property
Yeah,
of We
that's
Eat
in that
Swords for
is
Oh,
the
there
thing
it
Breakfast.
we
is.
sent you.
There it
So,
is. Oh, so that's
Yeah.
the thing that I signed and didn't read.
art is
Yep.
theft.
I'm just kidding.
So
Actually,
I
all
think this
art
is
is kind of theft. It's fine.
yeah, the so I think it's just an easy transition into the penultimate question, and then Chandler can ask the secret question at the end. But the
Hmm.
penultimate question that you have, so you're most well versed in poetry and novel writing, long form writing. What's an area of storytelling in which you're not that well versed, but you'd be really interested to know more about?
I am super impressed with art. I more recently, I think the older I get, the more interested I am in having art in my home.
Like
Like that
visual
magical,
art, like painting.
yeah, visual art. Yeah. I think it's part of the adulting process where suddenly you also want to buy a vacuum. But I think art is so impressive because I have no like artistic ability when it comes to painting or drawing or anything like that. So I just think it's really impressive and really cool. But I think there's more creative possibilities with it because you're not using words. So you're controlling even less of the message or the story or emotions that are being put down. It also feels really personal, but I just think it creates a more authentic experience for who's seeing it because you're not being told with words that you recognize what to feel. You just kind of have an experience that you can't control, which is super cool. So not that I want to paint because I would need Bob Ross's help to do it, but I just love art. Like I really feel like this call to like go to galleries and like find art that I love and like put it in my home and all this stuff because I just think it's really mad impressive. I really do.
I agree, for sure. I
Yeah.
also want to do that.
Dancing too, I will say. I think dancing is super impressive. And
Well,
I'm always very moved by
Chandler's
dancing.
fiance is a dancer.
Yeah,
Really? Oh my gosh, what does
she
she
is.
do?
She is. I will keep it brief because she is pressuring me to be on the podcast. She's a modern and contemporary
Oh,
dancer. So she's a professional. She dances professionally with a few companies. And then she also teaches to adults and youth the art of dance as well.
that's super cool. I'm obsessed with dance movies because I literally can't get enough of watching people dance. It's also very similar to art for me where I'm like I could never do it. So there's like that level of coolness when I know someone can do that. But it's also again, it's crazy you can watch someone move and then like feel emotional about it. Like how like that's just so crazy to me. So it's just super super cool. That's so cool she does that. If there's a petition to overrule you and get her on the podcast, I will sign
That's no overruling. I am all for having her on here.
it.
I think
That's super
honestly
cool. That's super cool.
one of my this is one of my favorite things to talk about in terms of art and creation is
Hmm.
that you're sitting here in awe about how somebody could do that and make you feel something, but there are just as many people who are in awe how you could put string words together in the perfect way and make them feel something. It's a skill and ability that you have and that you've developed and worked on that not a lot of people do, and they're in awe of you. But then you are in awe of other people, right? I'm sure there are people who have seen me perform before and be like, "How does he do that emotion in that moment? I don't know
Yeah.
how you do that." But that I'm the same way when I sit down and listen to a piece of music and I'm like, I have no idea how you put that melody and rhythm with
Yeah.
those words all together in perfect harmony and make me feel something. I don't know how you did that, right? I think that we are all artists in our own way, and you kind of mentioned this in the beginning, and I love talking about mom and dad as artistic in their own ways because they are.
Hmm.
Like dad can make anything out of anything. Like you give him a couple of things and he'll put something together that's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And mom with not just her cooking, but like just the way that she will decorate a house
Hmm.
or decorate an item that you give her and make it look nice, right? So like the two of them are have such an eye for creativity and art.
Hmm.
And you're right. That's why I think that we were so blessed to grow up in that type of household and become who we were, and allowed
Yeah.
to become who were supposed to become. But yeah, I love to stop and think in those moments of awe of other people that there are people in awe of me as well for things that I do, right? And so just to, not sell yourself short about being in awe of a dancer, like I am in awe of how you write poetry because I can't do it.
Maybe one day
Well,
someone will listen to our podcast and say, I really love the way those guys talk into a microphone.
you
Hey,
know,
it's fair.
it is fair. And not a lot of people, I mean, and not to sound like too like, artsy or whatever, but there is choreography and creativity at work when you guys are directing a conversation or making someone feel comfortable enough to share about something personal or like share their internal process. I think all creatives go a little nuts when they have to like try to figure out the formulas that are going on in their brain because they don't often understand it or want to because it ruins the mystique. But there's something really cool about making people feel comfortable to talk on this podcast, and I also think that's creative and you're a thing that not a lot of people can do.
It was so I was definitely saying that because it felt like an easy joke, and I did not anticipate you being able to actually say something meaningful about the art of
Well, we are
yapping.
related, Chandler.
That is fair. That is fair because I podcasting is not my main thing by any means. We didn't really publish our episode 0. So Emily, you might not know this other than from any descriptions you may have read, but I'm a
Yeah.
filmmaker. I acted in college,
Oh, wow.
did
Okay.
improv. So like I am definitely a visual performance style artist is what I consider myself.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can bring up the art of like conversation and making people feel
Hmm.
comfortable is something that I don't want to say that I'm really good at, but it's something that I really care about, being able
Yeah.
to make people feel comfortable and safe when they're with me, because I know not everyone is a safe space to talk to,
Yeah.
and
This
I
is
want people to know that I
this
can
is
be
why
that space
we're
if they want.
this is why
Yeah.
we're a good duo because you have the number one most important thing that you need to be good at conversation and be good at making other people feel comfortable is you're an incredible active listener. And I have the other thing, which is the perfect face for radio. So, uh,
That is true. You're good at yapping, and I'm good at listening. It's two. We need both of us for a good conversation.
it's
That's
like
why it's not a one host
that one guy
podcast.
doesn't shut up, and that other guy just listens.
Yeah.
Hey,
You got
I try.
you got Chandler's conversation. You guys start posting these recordings and you get Adam's face out there and you're
That's
gonna
why the
be off the
mic's right here.
charts.
I'll have to start turning my camera off so that people
It's
can
just
focus
me.
on the real beauty.
All right. So you answered all of our questions we gave you.
Except one.
Now
So
comes
here's the
the
thing,
big one.
Emily. You are a I don't we're not in like a new era of the podcast. We still don't know what we're doing. But you are the first guest to come on our podcast since we have gone live. You also happen to be the
Super cool.
first guest who's come on our podcast who listened to our podcast. So this next question probably comes as no surprise because we also asked it to Ginny. This one I don't have written down in the specific notes. So let me pull up my other notes. So we talked about what format of storytelling you're most comfortable in. We talked about one that interests you, even if you're not so well versed in it. So our secret mystery question, going back to Emily's story, your story. If you had to tell your story to an audience, to yourself, just to us, and I think we have the stipulation if you couldn't use poetry or writing, what method of storytelling or format would you use to tell your story? And maybe give us a taste on like how that might look or work.
Yeah, I did hear this question in the podcast, but can I just be honest? I told myself not to think about it because I wanted to have a genuine answer in when you asked it to me. So I have not thought about it. It's hard to think about. I feel like I'm gonna think of an untraditional. I feel like I would say, even though it would be very boring because there's no big drama or action in my life, but maybe like a video game because I'm also very obsessed with choice-based video games. And I think it would be very true to who I am to have a story that is interactive so that like I'm sort of, even though obviously I'm not like a computer, right? But like to have a story that someone could like interact with and I don't know, really experience like the consequences and the choices and I don't know, maybe even change it. If you're doing a choice video game, I don't know, make my life cooler, you know? But it's something that I would want to play. So I'm really, really obsessed with choice video games. So I
All
think that
right.
would be pretty cool.
Give us like the 60-second pitch though. Like what would the game be?
Oh, see, that's the hard part. I'm like, you have to decide if Emily's going to have 4 cups of coffee today or 5 cups of coffee.
So
Like,
it's
no
just
one
like a
wants to
life
play that video
simulator?
game. Yeah, like maybe it's like Sims. Maybe it's Sims. Maybe my story's being told in Sims. And it's my wardrobe, but you get to pick, but it has to be out of my legitimate wardrobe. If I'm going to read a book, it has to be out of the books that I own. Or if you're going to pick a coffee, it has to be one of the 30 million coffee cups that I actually own.
Not
It
to be
doesn't sound fun. I hear that. I know that.
well, but you just pitch it right. To be, I don't want to say poetic, but I'll let you call it poetic if you think it is. To tell the story not of what your life has been, but who you are and the possibilities of where you might find yourself, just depending on decisions you might make, and kind of hinting or reminding people that we all make choices in life and they may lead us different places, but at the end of the day, those are the choices we make and they are a part of who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it could be like the Midnight Library, which I still have of yours here, Adam, because that's a book rec from Adam. It's one of his favorites, and I read it, and it was great. Where you get to see different versions of the life depending on how you would have lived my life. That could be cool. But then it's
I
like,
did I did I did
actually, Emily, did nothing like that, but that would be cool.
I did have the thought that that would make a really cool video game because there's like endless possibilities with that.
Well, it's like
I
Clue,
also
like the
it's
original Clue, where they have different endings,
That's true.
or those books you used to read where you could like go to
Choose your own
different
adventure.
endings. Yeah.
I
Bandersnatch.
I also think it's so you to choose something where somebody else has autonomy over how your story's told. Like you're like, what if I don't have to make the choice? What if
What
it's
if
not?
You
someone
told
else
my
can
story.
decide?
You're like, it's like you play it, but like only if you want to, and if you do it the way you want to do it, not the way I want.
Yeah, right. But don't like no worries if not. I don't I don't care.
It'll be totally interlaced with a bunch of just stock voiceover voice options. It's just that door's locked.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
locked. You can't
It'll be
make that
very
choice. That choice is
it'll be
locked because that's not what
very Nancy
happened.
Drew coded. Yeah. We're like, I'm sorry, you wanted to go in there? Emily never entered that. So sorry.
Oh, what if it was like some sort of mystery where you wake up in a room or whatever and you have to like escape the room or whatever, and every time you make a decision that Emily didn't make, it explains why
Ooh.
you didn't make that choice and says make another choice. And so like in theory you could beat the game really quickly by making all the choices that you would make. Or it takes a long time but you learn a lot about why you wouldn't choose those things. That's interesting.
It's like a reverse escape room where
Yeah,
you're just
yeah.
trying to like learn about me by
Escape Emily's
everything that's
escape
in the
Emily's
room.
brain.
Oh, see, that sounds interesting. That's more fun because there's a lot more crazy things in my brain than there is in my life.
Well, you're the first person to say video games, so that's really cool.
Yeah. I love video games.
Well, now that we got all that stuff out of the way, we can get to the real podcast,
Uh
which is the most important thing. There's no pressure on this because Chandler already rated something infinity, so you
It's
can't.
not true
oh.
infinity though. We
It's
we
true.
already
There are
discussed
different.
there is one opportunity for a breakfast
Yeah.
to get true infinity.
So you can't. I was gonna say you can't, and you can
So
have.
no pressure.
There are also. If this will blow your brain, there are different sizes to infinity. Infinity's not one size. So
Oh my gosh,
think
that's
about that
such
for a
an
second.
Adam
So
thing to say.
now you have to tell us what is your go-to or best breakfast. You got to be as complex and specific as you'd like,
Okay.
because Chandler and I are going to try this and rate it at the top of our next episode.
Whew, okay. I will say if I'm going out, I am always ordering eggs Benedict, but I cannot make eggs Benedict. So that's not my go-to. Emily's at
That's fair
home
though.
making breakfast. If I'm making breakfast for myself, I'm making my in the process of patent pending hash potatoes because they're cubed potatoes. I actually discovered these when I was doing the David fast and I couldn't eat anything but vegetables. And I realized after 3 days of pure hunger that I could eat potatoes, and I feasted on like a whole bag of potatoes with these. But basically, it's cubed potatoes, and you season it all basically whatever garlic powder, salt, pepper, a little bit of paprika. But the key is everything bagel seasoning. You got to put everything bagel seasoning on it, and then you put them in the air fryer, and you crisp them up however you want. I like them crispy. Some people don't, so you don't have to keep it in that long. But then I do over medium eggs, so yolk, but not brainy and gross. So a little bit of yolk. You know when like eggs are like really really runny and it kind of gives you the ick, like the egg
No,
ick.
that's
You
how
guys
I
never
like
get the egg
them.
ick?
Doesn't give me the ick. We're
That's
an
how I
over
want
easy
it.
podcast.
Yeah.
No. Okay, well, I'm not saying I wouldn't eat a really runny egg, but I prefer it over medium because I still want yolk. You have to have yolk for a good egg. Um, so do you guys not like scrambled eggs?
No, I like scrambled eggs.
But yeah, I love scrambled eggs.
Okay, okay. Um, so over medium eggs, I like to fry up chopped onions and burn them a little bit, and a little feta cheese, and then I cook the egg over it over medium, and then I just put all of that on top of the potatoes. I call them like I don't know, like dirty burnt eggs because it kind of looks
Eggs
gross, but it tastes
Emily.
really good. Eggs a la Emily.
Eggs Emily.
You said dirty burnt eggs, but I heard dirty bird eggs. And because you mentioned
Mm.
liking a good bird earlier, I'm going to throw that hat in the ring if you wanted to
Okay.
rename them as dirty
Okay.
bird eggs. It
Well,
has no
maybe.
reason to be called that, but
Well, I don't know. Maybe when you guys are, eating that breakfast, you'll be like, "This is for sure a dirty bird egg,"
Well,
or it won't feel like that.
there's a
Whatever it
dance
feels
called the
like.
Dirty Bird. You could do the Dirty Bird while you're making the eggs. Maybe that impacted it.
I know the listeners won't have the privilege of seeing this, but can you show me what that dance move is? Because I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's like this.
Okay, come on.
See, that was good, right?
Is that really it? Is that what it is? Or are
No,
you
I
just not
just wanted you
moving?
guys to go along with the bit and pretend like I did something. Yeah.
I only go along with the bit if I can add to it.
Yeah,
You
no, I
know
actually have
that.
no idea what it looks like. No, I do know what it looks like. It's a dance that um I feel like it's kind of similar to the gritty. Um but like
I don't know what that is
you
either.
know what the gritty is? I gotta look up the
No.
gritty,
you
Emily. Come
kids
on.
these
Oh wait,
days.
is that this thing?
Yes,
Where
that's the
you're like going
gritty.
like that?
Yeah.
Yes.
What are we wittying
What do
across
we?
this podcast
Yes.
right now?
Good. My
See,
friends started doing that. It's so funny.
I actually learned that from watching someone play Lethal Company on Twitch because they were mimicking that,
That's funny.
and they kept doing like this dance move
There is
on the game.
a in the video game I play most, Dead by Daylight. There's a Dead by Daylight killer who has this thing where he casts a spell and he has to do this to do it, and so you can like make him do that, but then stop while you're moving his
So it
head up and
looks
down,
like
so you can literally
yeah.
look like you're grittying, and it's really weird to get thrown onto like a hook for you to die, and the killer starts doing this.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, we are going to have that breakfast for sure. Emily, I want to thank you for being on. Truly, I
I would
appreciate.
also like to thank you for being on.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me. I'm super
I
honored.
appreciate you for being open and honest with a lot of your feelings about storytelling and about your life and about just sort of bearing yourself open. I'll let Chandler, kind of finish it out, and I'll give you a chance to plug anything. But I
Okay.
wouldn't be doing my job as a older brother if I didn't plug "Growing Pains" by Emily J. Rossi. And I'm gonna just I was thinking about like should I read one of the excerpts, but some of them are long. I will just plug one of my favorites, hydrangeas, but then
That's my
also because I
favorite
know
too.
that that's eye rolly for you because that's the one story that everybody likes. I also really like New York, a series. That's one of my favorites too. You can also see how I've
Ugh,
annotated this book.
not you plugging like two of the most personal
Um,
pieces in that
yeah,
book.
well, why do you think I said that? But what I will do is I'm going to embarrass you and read the back of it. So
Okay.
this is part of what Emily wrote about on the back of Growing Pains. Words and Illustrations by Emily Rossi. Here it is now. A map of my then and now, a map every up and down, and the pain that accompanies growth. Feelings are fragile, their every step risks a hole, risks a bruise. I handle them with care, with curiosity and compassion for where they came from and where they should go. I pray that I am able to love my feelings into purpose, and that these pages would act as a mirror for you to do the same.
Snaps. I earned snaps.
Just snap loud for my mic to pick it up.
Yeah, I really love that line of I pray that I'm able to love my feelings into purpose. I think that's really awesome. I also think it's funny that she got up off camera when I
I'm
started
sorry.
reading.
I know my laptop's about to die. Go
That's
figure.
okay.
I'm so sorry. I was trying to not be obvious with that at all. That was so sweet of you. Please don't think that was me being unkind.
So we'd love to, if you are able to get your situations in order. I'd love to give you an opportunity to plug anything that you'd like to plug. Like if you, obviously you can get Growing Pains on Amazon or at a local bookstore in Erie. But if there's anything else you'd like to plug or anything you want to leave somebody with of like, hey, you should check this out or check that out, we want to give you the space to go ahead and do that if you would like.
Yeah, I guess I don't super have anything to plug. I mean, you're welcome to follow me on social media. It's just Emily J. Rossi 11, I think. I'm not super active on it, but one day when I have more published works, that's where I'll be putting it. Um, um, what else would I plug? I will say, I mean, final thoughts that I have. This is just something I'm super passionate about, and I think it's super cool that you guys are doing this podcast because I think it's going to make a lot of people realize that they're creative, and that's something that I'm super passionate about. Is that everyone is creative, even though you'll meet so many people that say I'm not creative, and I'm like, well, that's not true because creation is it's remarkable, but it's also really mundane. We create like every day, basically. But we talked about like mom decorating and dad building. Like everyone has creativity in them, and I think it's so powerful. I think storytelling is so essential. Again, that's why I just think it's really meaningful what you guys are doing because um I don't know, life is hard, relationships are hard, the world is hard, and I think storytelling this I feel like the second we stop telling stories or living out our creativity is the moment where like the world actually starts losing, which sounds super dramatic to say, but I just really feel so strongly about the power of storytelling and creativity that I just think everyone should figure out what that is for them and stop telling themselves that they're not creative because we all have things to express in our hearts and minds that could help ourselves and others. So that's, yeah, that's that.
Trying to think if there was any way that we normally send our guests off other than thanking them 1,000 times. So for the 1,001st time, thank you, Emily, for being on. It was wonderful to meet you. You and
Yeah, you
Adam met
too.
years and years ago.
Yeah, it's like we're going on like 28 years. It's super
Crazy.
crazy. Can't think
That's
of anyone else
impressive.
I've known that long. Yeah, yeah,
Maybe your parents? I don't know.
Yeah,
yeah,
probably. I don't know.
maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
Yes, Emily, thank you
by
for coming
minutes.
on. Yeah, right. Thank you for coming on, Emily. I love you very much, and
I
I
love
knew
you.
this would be a really good conversation, and I think people will take away a lot from what you said. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you guys. I was honored to be on, and I am a converted listener just from the one episode I listened to. So I'm excited to keep tuning back in.
Please
So,
tell us how you feel about every single episode, even if it's a personal email or text to Adam, or if you want to comment or anything, just let us know. You're part of
yeah,
the We Eat Stories for Breakfast family. You're already part of the Rossi family, but now you're part of the
yes.
Breakfast family.
Yes,
So
the breakfast
It's also a
family.
secret. It's also a secret goal of ours to have a lot of our early guests to contribute creatively to our show. So we have an interview with Nika, who's a musician, and we're hopeful she's gonna create an intro for us.
Yes.
So we did write a description for our podcast. So if you're interested in reading that and maybe punching that up for us, I'm totally willing to let you do that.
Yeah, totally. And then, you know what you should do? This is my marketing brain at work. Um, you should eventually create a cookbook of all of your guests' breakfast orders.
all right, there's how you volunteered yourself
Yes.
to help us
Yes. I'll
draft
copy
copy
edit
for it.
it. Yeah, yeah. Great.
Wonderful. The cookbook. Ah,
The We Eat
Yes.
Stories for Breakfast cookbook.
Yes. So that's so cool.
oh, we got
That's
to
gonna be
start
awesome.
working on that.
Next year, next Christmas.
Coming Christmas of 2025, folks.
We got to
Hopefully.
start making ad revenue and
What's
hire
funny is
someone to do that for us.
I think every interview is ended with a bit and a funny cutoff. So I think we just be like, "Hey, bye."
Thanks for coming.
All right, I'm getting out of here. Okay, bye.
So that was our interview with my little sister, Emily Joanne Rossi, but as her author, she is Emily J. Rossi. Yeah, it's so funny because Emily has been so creative in my mind her whole life, but it's so interesting to hear her talk about creativity as a way to uh, not feel alone, but also try to grab attention from me and Allison, my older sister, our older sister, because I never would have seen it that way. But it's cool to hear it from her.
It's also really cool to think about art from this, well, storytelling. I get art and storytelling mixed in my head because of storytelling is an art.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
it's also neat to think about storytelling and like art and writing as not wanting to be alone, but because by participating, you are essentially hanging out with yourself. You are being with yourself, which is like a fun reminder that even if you find yourself alone, you're always, I mean, should be your biggest cheerleader, could be your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah,
You can
and I
always
mean,
talk to yourself.
like the idea of story being that thing that keeps you company, that keeps you warm, keeps you going on. I will share the depressing thing that I didn't want to share in front of my little sister because I didn't want her to feel bad about it. And I don't want you to feel bad about it, but this is something that's been on my mind, and this is something that, because of what she said, is something that I am taking away. And I apologize if I get a little emotional about it because it is pretty deep.
It's a deep
The
moment.
maybe. Have you watched Attack on Titan?
I have not.
So I won't. It's not a spoiler for anything, but again, the part of this song is talking about like I'm gonna bring up the lyrics because I don't want to mess this up. But it it's called Die with a Smile. I'm sure you've heard of it. Do you listen to radio music at all?
Radio music,
Yeah, just like popular
sometimes
music.
on occasion. I haven't
Yeah,
much, so it depends when it was popular.
like the one of the lines is, "If the world was ending, I'd want to be next to you." And I had this thought the other night when I was crying and thinking about it and finishing that I don't know that there's anybody in my life right now who would say that about me. I know who I would say it about, but he would probably choose his wife, understandably. Um, and that's not to say I'm not loved. That's not what I'm saying. But the concept of if the world was ending and you can only choose one person to be with, I don't think anybody would choose me. And that was like a very, very emotional moment for me for a lot of obvious reasons, but also like thinking of my art right now at this part of my life to keep myself company, is to give myself hope, is to keep myself pushing forward. And the idea that Emily was saying she had art to keep her company and stories are a form of communication and that they're an offering of pieces of yourself, combining all those together, I think that that's where the most impactful art comes from. It comes from this place of like loneliness and self-doubt and not feeling like you're enough, and so you're creating something that is bigger than yourself but is also a piece of yourself, so that if that somebody loves what you created, then they're loving you in a way, in a weird way. um and I didn't, I feel like it's an important thing to say because I do feel like a lot of people maybe feel that way. Um, I don't think it's a bad thing to feel that way, um, but I am reaching for stories as a way to not feel alone in my current moment of pity. uh, Sorry if
I
that's too deep.
no, it's not too deep. We're gonna be deep. We're gonna be deep for a moment.
It's fine.
I think it's important to be deep. We talked about kind of father-son dynamics and the beauty and emotional impact of men being honest and vulnerable with their feelings. To me, that's something that's vastly important, is to create space for men to open up and talk about their feelings. So one, I'm honored that you would even say, I know this is a public podcast and plenty of people are going to listen to this. And so this is more a reflection of you and your willingness to be vulnerable than it is of me being a safe space. But I'm still honored that in this space with me, that you felt compelled to be honest and be deep. But I would be lying I would assume most men. So as a man, if I had said that I have never been in a place where I had those same thoughts. When I first moved to DC, I had a very, very, very depressed month when I first moved here. Granted, we were in the middle of a pandemic, but I was in a new place, relatively fresh out of college, far from family. It was very easy to feel like alone. I wish I had magic words to say to everybody,
And I don't like.
But
And
it's not a bad thing to feel.
no,
But it is
no.
it's hard. I mean, it's hard to know that there are people out there who feel that way.
But I think it's important, and it ties back to a lot of what Emily was talking about creating her art and her poetry and her writing was, I mean, that's similar to her because she's the youngest child, and she felt like the two of us, and Allison and I, had our things that we were good at and had, the things that, oh, if we're talking about this, we're going to talk to Adam, or if we're talking about this, we're going to talk to Allison. So she was reaching for something to feel belonging and feel worth. And I think that that's what the root cause of, not the root cause, but that's at the heart of what I'm saying here is that when we and I forget who said it. It was either Nika or Kylie talked about like reaching out as, is like what storytelling is. It's a reaching out, right? And so I like that idea of it's an offering. It's a reaching out. The answer within storytelling is not only within ourselves. It's in that offering. It's in that reaching out. And so this definitely ties into what Nika was saying when we were our conversation about music and how like in musical theater you start singing when you can't help but do it because your emotions are too heightened, right? And so in my moment of loneliness, I'm creating with you and with all of our guests and with other things that I'm doing creatively on the side, right? Like that's how I am reaching out for connection in a moment of time where I feel not as connected. And that's not to say I don't have people here that I love and I feel connected with, but like stories as a survival method, I think is kind of what I'm thinking about right now after that conversation with her, for sure. And it is an absolutely in my brain the way I absorbed it. It is a theme in her book, in her of collected poetry about like what she's writing on these words is about surviving growth, right, and surviving these things, right. And it's so funny because even she, like in the she has like a quote at the beginning from somebody who has a book called a liturgy for fiction writers, and like the first sentence is "Take my small offerings," and so it's about this: take what I have to offer, whether you want it or not, but just take what I have, and may it hopefully do something for you. And now I'm rambling because I don't know where
You're
to
trying to
land and
dig yourself up. Oh yeah.
dig myself out, but
My ADD brain did that same thing that it always does. But I'm thinking about your one person thing, and I just don't think that's a fair scenario in that song that you're
no, it's
talking
not.
about
It's
because
not.
as human, I mean, the nature of storytelling and how we talk about it on the podcast, we're not reaching out to one person, we're not sharing with one person. It's casting, for lack of a better I don't know, metaphor, we're casting out a net to reach as many people as possible. If the world was ending, we would not just pick one person to spend it with. We would seek everyone that we care about. And there are thousands, surely, of people that would want you to be in their circle.
Thousands. That's a lot of people.
You've reached a lot of people.
Thank you, Chandler. I'm sorry. I didn't mean this to become a therapy session for me.
No, you're good. I
That
don't
that
want it
was
to be a
not
therapy session either. I'm not
sure.
trying to be the fixer. I'm not trying to be the fixer.
Yeah,
I'm just
no,
trying
and
to wrap
that's
this
a good
up.
way to put it though. And again, I'm not sharing that to be like everybody feel bad for Adam. I'm sharing that because as somebody who
Everyone,
considers
pity,
himself a
pity all for
storyteller,
Adam.
yeah, right. Aw, we added sound
Just-
effect. I'm saying it because I do think it's very important to it. I don't even want to say admit, but like just like acknowledge and realize that all of us feel so similarly, and especially people who are storytellers and artists. A lot of it comes from that loneliness and that sorrow, right? And that it's okay to have that. But what I want to do is challenge people to use it to create, right? Which is what I feel like I'm doing right now with you,
and
creating.
yeah, and a really good point to what your sister had mentioned also is everyone has a storytelling bone in their body.
Yes.
Use it.
Was
And if
that
you
what
have
you were
those
going to say
feelings,
for your takeaway? Because that was my,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I think that ties in well with what you're saying is just not only do you have that bone or that thing that you do that is storytelling, but especially if you have those deep emotions or you have those doubts or struggles or frustrations and you need to reach out, do it. The story that you're going to tell is going to be powerful, it's going to be meaningful, and it's going to help many, many people.
Couldn't say it better, man. Couldn't say it better. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you like, and comment, and subscribe, guys. At this point, only one episode is revealed, but by the time this is, there will be 4 or 5 episodes. Hopefully, you guys are all enjoying We Eat Stories for Breakfast as we toy and get better each and every episode, and we mess around with the formula. So we thank you guys for following along. Hopefully, at this point, you're on YouTube, so some of you guys might be watching us. I don't know. If you are, I just trimmed my beard and my head for this so that it looked nice. I got this new black shirt because black is very slimming and it makes me feel comfortable, and I like to be comfortable for this podcast. Make sure you do all that. Make sure you tag Brandon
Brandon
Sanderson.
Sanderson.
And now that we have finished with breakfast,
It's time for lunch.
ding.